It's nearly 30 years since Andrew Morton published his explosive biography of Princess Diana, which of course was written with her secret help. Today, he's returning to the royals with his latest book, Elizabeth and Margaret, which examines the relationship between the Queen and her younger sister. Well, Andrew joins me now. It is lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us this morning. And what a fascinating relationship that is between the two of them. Was that the whole reason you wanted to do that, to examine it a bit more?
Yes, indeed. Good morning. There's been a few queens of England, but very few where the sister has been active. In fact, this is probably a unique relationship insofar as Margaret was with Elizabeth all the way through the war, growing up, and they've almost got an instinctive relationship between one another.
It's a tough role, isn't it, that Margaret had? And you really talk about that in the book a lot. You know, being, if you like, the spare. It's a horrible term, isn't it? It's a horrible term.
Yes, she was the spare. She had no specific role. And this is the thing about being a member of the royal family. You've got to carve the role out for yourself. Of course, Princess Elizabeth, as the heir presumptive, she was the future queen. Everything was mapped out for her. So Margaret felt a kind of primal jealousy, if you will, of the fact that Elizabeth had it all done for her, whereas she was always tail end Charlie, coming up number two, even wearing her sister's hand-me-downs.
No, that's true. Although very loyal to her, that shines through the book. But there are parallels, aren't there, between William and Harry, inevitably.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's no question that Diana, for example, always saw Harry as William's wingman, his backup in the nicest possible way, she said to me. Well, Margaret, in the same way, was the backup for the Queen, because after all, being Queen, being number one is a very, very solitary position. Who can you trust? Who can you rely on? And it's only your own family. And Margaret and Elizabeth had this kind of instinctive bond that lasted throughout her lifetime.
It very much did. She was always defined, though, wasn't she, by this romance that didn't happen, you know, that she gave up the man she loved, Captain Townsend, because he happened to be divorced. When you think of it now, it seems so ridiculous, especially as three of the Queen's children went on to get divorced. But it's that thing of forced to give up the man she loved. But when you did your research, it wasn't quite like that, was it?
No, what I discovered during going through papers at the National Archives is that the then Prime Minister, Anthony Eden, offered all kinds of goodies to Princess Margaret to get married, but just to give up her place in the line of succession. She would have kept the civil list, the money given to pay for her upkeep. She wouldn't have had to go into exile. And Group Captain Peter Townsend could have married her. And even got a title himself. But Margaret, I think, after 2 years of waiting, because she had to wait for 2 years till she was over 25, so that she could marry without the Queen's permission, I think that she just fell out of love with him. And so the romance of the century wasn't really all it may have seemed.
One of the very interesting things that you cover in the book is the fact that she had mental health issues and she wanted help. And we saw that actually in The Crown. So that was one of the things that The Crown got right, but she didn't get any help. I think the attitude was, and maybe the attitude still is, you know, it's kind of pull yourself together, which of course is the worst possible thing you can say to anybody who's going through a tough time mentally.
Well, it's from a generation where if it's cold, put on a sweater, don't turn up the heating. It's make do and mend. People didn't talk about mental illness. But having said that, Princess Margaret did go for psychological counselling, and even the Queen herself had during her annus horribilis had somebody in to help her with breathing and relaxing. So, in a funny kind of way, the royal family have had a history of going for help from professional bodies for psychological issues that they faced.
Well, that's extraordinary. I had no idea. I would never have thought of the Queen doing that, which makes it seem all the more crazy that they didn't, or all the more difficult to imagine that they wouldn't have helped Meghan. You know, when Meghan made a cry for help and she said that nobody listened to her, which was one of the saddest things about that interview, wasn't it?
Yes, I mean that was a very sad admission, but it left far more questions than answers, especially as Harry, as we know, is a patron of a mental health organisation, and his godmother Julia Samuel is a well-known psychotherapist. She's on speed dial. I mean, it left me baffled, that assertion.
I think you weren't the only one that was really baffled by that. It seemed very strange. Now look, The Crown. Do you reckon it was pretty accurate? Because you are going to be portrayed in The Crown, of course, because we're going to be coming up to the point in Diana's life where she confided everything in you. I mean, she talked to you about absolutely everything before you wrote that book, that sensational book about her. Did they get it right, more or less, do you think? Because you're one of the few people that know.
I think Peter Morgan has done a fabulous job of recreating the human beings behind the facade and introducing to a new generation the secondary characters, if you will, in the royal family. So that around the world now, there's an increased fascination with the royal family through the likes of characters like Princess Anne, Princess Margaret, and yeah, I'm looking forward to Series 5, where yours truly is. I mean, I don't know who's going to play me. I mean, I'm 6'4", so it could be Danny DeVito. Daniel Craig has said that he's a bit busy. He's going to comb his hair at that time. So I don't know.
Well, we shall see. It'll be very interesting. Now, knowing Diana as you did, and she was going through a really tough time when she was talking to you, and of course all of this is back in the news now because there's an inquiry going on into the Panorama interview that she did, some very disturbing allegations there. But do you think, I just wonder what you think she would make of this situation of Harry stepping back, because Diana stepped back herself from the royal family, didn't she? But, you know, it's resulted in this rift between her sons.
Well, she'd have been very disappointed in the rift between the two boys. I mean, hopefully that the spirit of Diana can help some kind of reconciliation when they unveil her statue at Kensington Palace Gardens this summer. She was by the end an independent humanitarian ambassador for the Red Cross. She wasn't involved in the royal family. She was even thinking about living in Malibu, just down the road from Montecito, where Meghan and Harry live. So she would have totally understood Harry's decision to walk away from the family firm.
Fascinating, isn't it, how things go round in circles? It's quite remarkable. The book's fascinating. I absolutely loved it. I mean, I grew up with all of that going on anyway, and the insight into Margaret as a person, you know, and not just this kind of symbol, is quite remarkable. She could be her own worst enemy sometimes, though, couldn't she? That was the thing. She was a difficult one to get a handle on.
Yes, she was, and the Queen and the rest of the family were quite exasperated with her from time to time. But ultimately, she proved herself loyal, and she proved herself devoted to the Queen. And she was always saying, "Oh, poor Lilibet," her name for the Queen. You know, look what they're making her do now. So she was there as a consolation, as well as someone who could irritate the life out of everybody.
Well, it's a fascinating read. Andrew's book, Elizabeth and Margaret, The Intimate World of the Windsor Sisters, is out today. And I think interest in the royals has never been higher at the moment. So it's a very opportune time. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Andrew.
My pleasure. Nice to talk to you, Lorraine.
And you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Don't forget, you can watch full episodes of Lorraine on the ITV Hub and all the best clips, compilations and playlists right here on our channel. Just subscribe now and you'll never miss an upload. Click here to watch another video similar to this one, or click here to head to our channel's homepage to explore all of our exciting videos.